Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I have a special co-host here with me. Today, we welcome Steve back to the show. Steve, how are you today?
Not too bad. Thanks for inviting me back to help out with this show, Lake.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this would be a good one because you're in the midst of planning a very similar cruise, actually, on the same ship and similar itinerary. So why not have you on to ask your questions?
Yeah, I'm excited to find out exactly where Zach went and all these different places, what they had planned on these different islands. Because these are the type of cruises that are kind of one-off. There's not as many of them. Everybody we've talked to has loved them, so I cannot wait to try it ourselves.
Yeah, this will be a very exciting one for sure. But before we get into that, Steve, why don't you give a little update about what you've been up to and what you've been doing since you have not been around quite as much?
What have I been doing? I've been chasing kids around. So Alex, our youngest, has been swimming like crazy. So I became an official. So I've been helping out with that with his swim club. They have their state meet, which is the third weekend of July coming up. So going to be helping out with that. And then our oldest, Andrew, is graduated high school and just getting ready to send him off to college. He's going to go to the University of Oregon next year. So excited to see him on his way, trying new things, and also to go down and see the Mighty Ducks play some football games too. So it's going to be a fun year down there for him.
Well, best of luck to him. Eugene is a pretty cool place, as we found out.
Just stay away from that Tracktown pizza.
I mean, it's a great place if it's, after midnight and you need pizza.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my fails as far as a recommendation. So kind of an inside joke there.
Well, why don't we go ahead and bring our guest on? We'd like to welcome Zach to the show. Zach, how are you today?
Hey guys, how are y'all? I'm good.
We are doing good. Exciting to chat about this. Why don't you start off by letting us know what kind of sailing you booked, what ship you booked, and who sailed with you?
Yeah, so we did a Southern Caribbean on the Magic. We've kind of been bad outside of our Alaskan cruise is avoiding certain sailings because they don't go to Castaway. So, one of the blessings of the fact that we've been on a lot of cruises now is that missing Castaway isn't the end all be all for us. We took a step back and we're like, we should go to islands that we've never been to before. So there were 2 Southern Caribbean sailings. We went with the first one, went to Aruba, Curacao, Dominica, and St. Martin.
Awesome. Well, these Southern Caribbean sailings always sail out of San Juan. So what was your guys' plan to get there, get to the port? Did you do any extra days in San Juan before or after?
No, we got in the night before. We got in pretty late, so just kind of flew in. We got an Airbnb, went to the Airbnb straight from the airport to Airbnb, and then the next day got on the ship. We did at least make a point. So one of our chiropractors she's Puerto Rican, so we just asked for some good local eats, maybe to go have breakfast or early lunch before getting on the ship. So they recommended a place called Mallorca in Old San Juan, which everybody listening, write that down, Mallorca. So it's in Old San Juan. What a Mallorca is it's this like breakfast pastry kind of. It's not really a donut, but that's the best thing I can compare it to, is this fried bread, and they put powdered sugar on it. But what this restaurant does is they basically have sweet and savory mixed dishes. So went with both my wife and my son, my father-in-law and mother-in-law. My father-in-law and we got an Uber, found this place, and just got a bunch of food to go. So got my Mallorca specifically, I got the egg, ham, and cheese. So they take those Mallorca breads and they make it basically like a sandwich. So basically if you like something that's both sweet and savory, it's must do. It takes a minute before you can go get on the ship, go get yourself a really good breakfast.
So you got me with the sweet. I like the sweet and the savory there together. I've tried. In Orlando, though, they've got a Cuban coffee shop where they have something similar to that kind of Cuban food, but it doesn't have the sweet side to it. So that would be awesome to try that in San Juan. So the ship leaves pretty close to Old San Juan, right?
Yeah, it was probably like 5 minutes from there, honestly. Our Airbnb was 5-10 minutes, so that was perfect. That short Uber ride over to Old San Juan, able to go back, eat at the Airbnb, and then, yeah, short Uber ride back over to the port.
Like before we jump into it, I was kind of thinking these are kind of different ports that not a lot of people go to, and first time for you guys too, I believe. Zach, what did you do to prepare for it? Or how did you research some of these? Did you just use the Disney website?
So we have a travel advisor. So she was a huge help, especially with like Aruba. There's multiple beaches in Aruba. There's the Arashi Beach, and also there's the Eagle Beach, and there's one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. So the biggest thing when we were just learning about Aruba was, no, you have to go to a beach. Here's the pros and the cons of each beach, and then kind of make our decision from there. She's really, we've worked with her for 5 years at least now. So, she knows us, what we like, what my son, what he, she's already kind of learned what he likes. So have that conversation. She knows kind of the type of budget we're always doing. So yeah, just conversations with her, great relationship. And then otherwise, so we actually had been to St. Martin before on a Royal Caribbean cruise in 2019. So that was cool because we've already experienced that once and kind of knew what it is we wanted to either redo or not do this time around. So yeah, just research, and always recommend having a travel advisor.
Yeah, definitely a good benefit of having somebody that you develop a good relationship and somebody you trust that has kind of helped you along the way to help you out with these new ports as well. So, Well, cool. Should we get on the ship?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So how was the boarding process? Pretty easy in San Juan versus Port Canaveral?
I hate to say it, it was not easy at all.
Okay.
That is, if I'm going to say one negative thing, it was definitely the boarding process. That Monday, we got an email from DCL saying, I don't know what it was, but they already knew based on weather conditions that we were going to leave an hour later. Whatever, you can't control that. It said show up at your port arrival or an hour after your port arrival time. Well, the problem is our port arrival time originally was 11:45, and we had to be out of our Airbnb by 11. So we go early. We know what we're getting ourselves into. Whatever, we already are packing our patience there. The thing was that they only had lines like outside, and they weren't really organized as far as who was supposed to be where. So when we see our sign, port arrival time, 12:45, we start going, but it's already kind of full, and there's a big group of people near it that are kind of just like looking around, and we're just like, so we tell an attendant where we need to go, and they direct us to that side group, and we're like, okay, that's weird. Whatever. Maybe they seen our check-in that we're platinum and we're going there. I don't know. 12:45 comes, and it takes at least 15 minutes late for the line to start moving again. Trying to, temper expectations, whatever, no big. We finally get in our line. We're kind of moving, but then there's a separate line that just random people are going through and going to the front. Take a step back, always assume the best. Maybe these are concierge people, no big deal. Well, that keeps going for, it was about 35, 45 minutes. And I'm like, they don't even have this many concierge cabins, but you don't want to be the person to be like, excuse me, what's going on here? But I have a 3-year-old. It was very, very hot. So, there's a point in time where my wife and I are just kind of looking at each other like, what is happening? At this point, by this time, we've been waiting for about, for at least 45 minutes past, our updated port arrival time. We're finally getting near the front to where we can go in, and we stop. Well, we sit back, we wait, and we look up, though, and we see that there are 3 security gates open with nobody going through them, and everybody at the door is just kind of standing around. And that is at the point where we're like, all right, this is kind of ridiculous. This is annoying. Not great. Well, finally, yeah, we do get inside. We do get checked in. It was all Castaway Club, like silver through platinum in the same line, then first time cruisers, and then obviously Pearl and Concierge. So, I'm taking a step back. I'm like, did that hold it up that they're sending all Castaway Club outside of Pearl into the same line? I don't know. But it was just like one of those, okay, this is frustrating. I'd at least they don't owe me an explanation as to why one line is going faster, but it would have been nice to even just have a sign saying concierge, so that way I take a step back and I don't think anything of it. Needless to say, embarkation did not go well. It was over an hour between like dropping our bags off, the actual boarding time, and us finally getting on. And that's all I have to say negative, because it was a wonderful cruise. But
yeah, Disney just struggles in ports outside of Port Canaveral. And I've noticed that in San Diego, also in Civitavecchia, where a lot of times they group the castaway clubs together. Concierge, has their own separate line, but definitely in San Diego, it's silver, platinum, and gold all kind of together. So yeah, hopefully they'll figure it out next time.
Yeah.
Like,
it is what it is. They're big. Yeah. They only leave from San Juan a few times a year. So it's not even like, the rehearsal's not even there. Give it some grace, but also be a little more on top of it next time. This was, though, my son's first time on the Magic. So he has now been on all 5 ships. So that was his first time on the Magic, though.
Well, getting back onto the Magic then, what were you looking forward to experiencing again?
One thing was being on the Magic in general, because not just the Magic's a wonderful ship, but the last time we were on the Magic was the very last sailing the Magic did before the shutdown. But also, just the intimacy of the Magic. Also, the restaurants of the Magic. I always love Animator's Palette on the classic ships. I love Paolo, just the feel of Paolo on the classic ships. Rapunzel, love Rapunzel. So yeah, I would say those are the biggest things. Just the intimacy of being on the Magic has that unique feeling, and the uniqueness of the restaurants on the Magic.
So this being a 7-day cruise, different ports and whatnot, what type of room did you book? And for a cruise like this, would you recommend a balcony? Did you think that was important?
Well, we did an ocean view, the porthole on deck 2. I have kind of taken a step back from balconies. I know Lake has talked about how him and his wife have enjoyed getting the giant portholes, which we didn't have that option. But I have just kind of really appreciated like a porthole, because I've just used a balcony less. There's still things I miss about it, being able to just, go outside in the morning and all that. But also we aren't in our rooms as much. So, I never think a balcony is make or break, honestly, for any cruise, even Alaska. I know that's a hot take, but if it's something that you love, you don't mind paying the upcharge, then yeah. But the upcharge, I feel like it's just increased so much lately that's also where we've taken that step back and been like, we're really not willing to pay the upcharge anymore. And not to say we never will, because there's plenty of great things about it. It's just kind of where we're at right now.
There's some good points there, especially like on a hotter cruise like this, going to the Southern Caribbean, how much you're really going to be out there, maybe in the mornings and whatnot. Plus, with the smaller ships like the Magic and the Wonder, it is a huge price difference between the balconies and the ocean views versus the bigger ship, where it's not as much of a price point difference. So definitely on the Magic and the Wonder, your money goes a lot different, or it's definitely a lot more expensive to do those balconies.
They're expensive cruises, and you got to figure out where it is you want to spend the money.
Those ocean view and inside rooms also get so cold, and it is so nice. I love it so much.
That's true. One thing that, it may have happened if we were in a balcony, but we just so happened, we had a great experience. Granted, we have an inside room booked later in the year, but one thing that you may want to consider if you're getting inside room, something you might miss out on, we actually had a truly magical experience where I was talking to my wife at one point. I'm facing the porthole, and I just happened to look over and I saw a dolphin just jumping in the air. So I was like, in literally mid-sentence, I'm just like, oh my God. She's like, what? Turns around and yeah, just wild dolphins jumping up in the air. No trip to the aquariums or dolphin excursions can match being able to see that. So, it probably would have been cool to run out and to, actually see it on a balcony. So that would have been cool, but, that probably low probability, but that you're not going to have that experience in an inside room. Again, we have an inside room booked for later in the year. So not saying don't do it, just something to think about.
Well, why don't we turn towards dining on the Magic? We don't need to hit every restaurant here, but why don't you give us a little bit of your highlights of some of your favorite places to dine on the Magic, as well as what some of your favorite meals were during this sailing?
Yeah, so definitely favorite on a classic ship. It's always going to be Animators. I love the menu at Animators, the pasta prosciutto, the pork, absolutely delicious. I could do that menu multiple times in a cruise and be happy. And then even the appetizers, in addition to the presets that they have, I feel like it's not talked about enough. The salmon tartare. I had to be that guy and ask my server. I did it the night before, but I was like, "Hey, tomorrow we're at a different restaurant. Can I have one of those?" So yeah, if you do that, make sure you ask the night before, and they can go and get one from. They can go get any dish from another restaurant, but ahead of time. Again, don't do it the night before. Don't do it the day of. That's rude. But yeah, and then just the theming of Animator's Palette, Mickey coming out at the end, all that. Rapunzel's being unique. That's probably actually my favorite dessert. They have the little frying pan dessert. It's basically it's like a donut, kind of sorta. Fried bread dipped in chocolate and powdered sugar. Can't beat that. But yeah, I would say that's the highlights of dining or rotational dining. And as always, had a great team.
Besides the main dining rooms, spending time traveling with your in-laws, you and your wife were able to go up to Palo and do Palo brunch. So
Yep.
why don't you talk a little bit about that? How were those meals?
Yeah, so did Palo brunch and Palo dinner. I mean, it just never gets old, honestly. Starting with brunch, I mean, it really is. So many people that haven't done it before may ask, why would I pay extra for a meal when I'm already on a cruise? And it's just because it's worth it. There's value in how good it is. I mean, my wife and I have agreed that Palo's just our favorite restaurant, period. Land, sea, whatever. Brunch, the lasagna is perfection. It's actually perfect lasagna between the texture of the noodles, the flavor. I mean, it's always impressive how the food comes out at the perfect temp, not too hot. And the waffle, best waffle in the world. I'm one to butter up and syrup up a waffle. Not on this one. I just eat the waffle by itself. A giant Mickey waffle for anyone who hasn't done it before. They also, something that was interesting, my wife tried for the first time. They have a soup. They have a celery soup. Sounds disgusting. It's delicious. Highly recommend to anyone. But yeah, I mean, the bread's perfect. So they have the sweet pastries and the savory pastries. Service is always going to be out of this world. And yeah, you always get a complimentary drink for brunch. You get it's either the mimosa or I want to say a glass of Prosecco. So yeah, just between the service, the ambiance, sea day, and just the food itself is awesome. Then yeah, did dinner. They always give you the same server that you have if you do brunch and dinner. So you always, have that to look forward to. I feel like it's not talked about enough. We talk about the rotational servers following you around, where it is nice to have, another server, get to see them twice. I know Lake has talked about those Sabuco. Yeah, my wife and I are on the Sabuco train. It's delicious. And then the Angladi, have either of y'all had that before? So yeah, it's a pasta. It's a vegetarian pasta that it's basically, so it's like a ravioli, and it's this really cool balance of like cinnamon sugar but also light oil. Highly recommend. There's another pasta on the dinner menu. It's like a pappardelle. My first time ever having dinner there, our server recommended. He was like, "Yeah, I'll be one of the top 3 pastas you ever have in your entire life." I was like, "All right, I'll try it." My wife got the Angladi, and she was like, "So is the pasta live up to expectations to you?" And I was like, it was good. It wasn't like it was very not good. It was very good. You set the bar so high. My wife was like, "This is actually the best pasta I've ever had in my life." I tried to buy it. I was like, "Yeah, I agree. That's the best pasta I've ever had in my life." So highly recommend that. Yeah,
That's a good one to split, the Angladi. It depending on how you do it. If you do the a la carte or something like that, just add that one for both you and your wife to split them on top of whatever else you order.
Yeah, for Paolo, we always just do the a la carte. There's just too much there that isn't on the fixed menu.
Well, I want to take this in a different direction here real quick. You mentioned this was your son's first time utilizing the kids club. What was that experience like, and how did he enjoy it?
It was awesome. The nursery for him has been hit and miss. He usually, when he gets there, he would have a great time, but not really be in a rush to go back. We always kind of had to make sure we took him to open house or for him to get comfortable. But I mean, at the end of the day, the nursery counselors they are watching a variance of toddlers and babies in very different stages. A 6-month-old and a 2-year-old are in very different stages, have different, different ways they need to be entertained or just general attention. And I think that was it, is like he couldn't get hooked on it because, there's only so much that they can do or attention they can receive, especially that there's only usually 3 of them at a time, where, the kids club, they have what, 6 plus in there at a time. They can go back and forth to the lab. They have all the planned activities, all the themed rooms. So I think that was the big thing. Like, he loved it. It was nice not to have to make reservations, just to be like, because in the past with the nursery, it was, we kind of planned to have a few hours of time at the adult pool, account for Paolo. And yeah, I kind of left it at that, where here was literally whenever he wanted to. There were times he wanted to go just randomly. And, we usually had like block times in the day. All right, it's time to go to the kids club. And yeah, he's 3. So they have the separate counselors for the 3 and 4-year-olds. Yeah, he had a great time. He loved it. That's the one thing, the biggest thing he can't wait to do is go back to the kids club.
Yeah, that's a good point there as far as like the difference in the ages. I mean, there's a big difference in the age in the kids clubs as well, but that, I've never had somebody talk about that with the nursery like that. That's a really good point. And to your point, with the kids clubs just being so big with so many different areas that they can go to, they can find their people, their place where they're happy.
Yeah. And we were a little concerned at first because, he's a 3-year-old and they eliminated the 11 and 12. Sorry, Christy. I know that was hard for Blake, but yeah, it was, at least that was, that variance was cut down a little bit for us, being a little more comfortable. I think that helped that they had the 3 and the 4-year-olds with their own separate counselors doing their own activities.
Let's jump into the entertainment. You have 2 podcast favorites that were on board this time on top of Disney shows with Buckets and Board and Marcus and Monroe. And then you guys also did a drink tasting. Kind of touch on the highlights of those 3 options, or those three experiences.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with a drink tasting. We did the chocolate liqueur tasting. So for anyone who's not familiar with that, it's exactly that. It's chocolate, but they do multiple different types of alcohol, and they pair the chocolates with, there's 4 different chocolates and 4 different types of alcohol that they pair it with. You get a milk chocolate, and then you also, so that's kind of like a melted milk chocolate. Then you get these 3 different like chocolate nuggets. There's a dark, a milk, and a white. They do like a Parmesan one, and then the last one is another liquid chocolate, which I don't remember what it was, but yeah. And then the 4 drinks you get to have a rosé that's Tattinger, which is probably the regular Tattinger is one of my favorite champagnes out there, and it is not cheap. So yeah, there's that. There was a port wine, which I thought was disgusting. Have either of y'all had port wine before?
I love port wine, and it really goes good with that Parmesan.
Good for you. I'm happy. I was not a fan. Oh, and then yeah, there was a standard wine, and then there was a shot of whiskey, which was they said that if we bought the whiskey just separately, would have been about $40. So I mean, the value's there. I want to say, I think it was like the whole tasting was about $65. So I mean, it's absolutely your money's worth and more if you're on the fence about it. It might be 70. I'd have to look on the site. I don't know off the top of my head. And then one thing I always appreciate with these is that they actually have sommeliers come in, explain things, and talk about the smells, why things pair together. And you just learn little things. Like there was even one thing outside of the alcohol. They had the Parmesan cheese, and they had to dip it in one of the chocolates. And at first you're like, okay. I mean, you take a bite, it's delicious. And they're like, you eat cheesecake. How many people here don't eat cheesecake? It's like, good point. So there's just these little things you learn that are always fun. And then, yeah, it was a DCL podcast / Steve special with the onboard entertainment. Oh, and Tisa was on board, by the way. So that was, it truly was a Steve special. But she actually, while we were waiting for one of our excursions in the Walt Disney Theater, she was just doing stand up. So we were cracking up. So
she is so fast. If anybody has Tisa, like, just, you got to listen to everything she says, because it's just like one thing after another. It's awesome. She's so funny.
It's hilarious. But yeah, I had Buckets and Boards. I went to both the adult show and I went to the kids show. I thought the adult show was funnier, just so, and it's not so much like what they say. It's more just the performance itself. I remember, because I've heard your interview with them on the show before, and I mean, they flat out they're like, yeah, I mean, we're Yeah, the adult show, but we're more family entertainment in general. That's just kind of our style. Played a recorder or well, two recorders with his nostrils. Just yeah, little things like that. I mean, it's them playing with the literal buckets and boards are impressive, but honestly, it's just those random musical talents that make them impressive, and they're just funny. Like they're just two funny dudes. They play really well off of each other. So yeah, they're definitely recommend go to the family show and go to the adult show, if especially the adult show. They just kind of do more. And I would say with any act, they're a lot looser. It's more the adult show's just always less structured. They're just kind of out there having fun, where the family shows are usually very structured, trying to get kids on stage involved.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a little bit more free flowing in the adult spaces when they do those in the evenings, and so that we kind of tend to gravitate to those. And a lot of times we'll skip the family show these days.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And then yeah, Marcus Monroe was on there. That guy's so funny. That guy is so funny. This was like I want to say this was my third cruise sailing that he was on. And I mean, even his same jokes to me don't get old, because he's just like that. He's so self-deprecating and it's hilarious. I mentioned earlier the ship was leaving late. It was actually his family performance was on the first day, and the ship started leaving during his show. And so out of nowhere, there was a point where he like turns around and you could see like the projector in the Walt Disney Theater with his name on it, just going bananas, and just mid, routine, he's just blurts out, "Oh wow, we're really moving." I'm not even going to try to imitate him because I can't. So, but the kids show, or the family show, excuse me, had more of the juggling, the unicycle, all that. And he said this would happen. The adult show was more stand up. I almost missed it. I almost slept past it. I was a few minutes late because I was waiting. I was like, I'll lay in bed for a few minutes and then head over, as my wife was already going to sleep. And yeah, I almost missed it. I woke up. I was like, oh crap, I got to get down there now. And it was full. There was nowhere for me to sit when I got down there. But yeah, it's definitely more stand up. And then at the very end, he was like, all right, I'm contractually obligated to juggle for y'all now. So here we go.
He's definitely moving more towards stand up, just in his own routine, anyways, at home. So I think the juggle is just more for the kids these days.
He's a really good juggler, though. So I do enjoy it.
Well, should we get off the ship and into the ports?
I think we should.
Well, let's jump into the ports. So this is a 7-day cruise. You guys stop at Aruba, Curacao, Dominica, and St. Martin. Let's jump into Aruba. I'll take that one first. I know that Aruba, talking to Christy and having her on the shows before, Aruba, I've actually never been there, but it's a big shopping port for people that want to shop. A lot of good restaurants as well, but also beaches. What did you guys have planned?
Yeah, so we did the Arashi Beach. I mean, the biggest thing that stood out about it for that one specifically was the price. I mean, I'm never going to say a beach is a beach, because they are, when you've been to enough Caribbean islands, you have seen these. But I will say, I mean, I would compare just this beach as far as the beauty of it to Castaway. I mean, it has the beautiful blue waters, the sands. There was nothing, and I'll talk about the Dominica Beach, I'll talk about later. That had something very specific that stood out, where this one was just, standard beach, enjoy a pretty day at the beach, a lot of fun. Lots of value, though, in that it was only $30 for there, but that only covered transportation. So yeah, $30 for 10 and 14, 3 to 9, and then 0 to 2 is free. So yeah, just enjoyed a good beach day. We did have to pay when we got there for the chairs, and it did include snorkel gear. There was nothing really impressive about the snorkeling. I mean, I did it. I just, took the gear, looked around underwater, but nothing impressive there. But yeah, it was still just a really good beach day. We weren't there that late. So pro tip is, since the food's not included, it was about 4 hours. Since food's not included, I say go as early as you can, so that way you have the option if you want to eat there, go for it, or you can go back to the ship and eat on the ship, which is what we did.
For kids, as far as the water goes, pretty is it wavy there, or was the water pretty calm for your son to be in?
It was calm. He generally hates the ocean, so he still didn't do it a lot, but yeah, it was still calm.
Okay.
Well, moving into our second stop here, we have Curacao. What did we have planned for this day?
So we actually stayed on the ship for Curacao. We decided when we were looking at DCL's website just on excursions, there wasn't a whole lot. So when I was talking to my our travel advisor, she was like, yeah, there's stuff to do, but it's on the other side of the island. It would be hard for us with a 3-year-old. And also, in addition to that, there just like a kind of get off the ship, walking around type thing. So we didn't plan anything. We planned originally for like my father-in-law and I, we were like, yeah, we'll get off the ship and just kind of walk around, maybe do so after lunchtime. Because especially that when we got up in the morning, we were just enjoying the ship being empty. Yeah, we were just having so much fun on the ship. Honestly, we were just like, yeah, we're just not going to get off. If I go back, when I go back, it would more so probably be when my son is older and active things. The next day, when my son was at the kids club, I just started chatting with a couple they were there without kids. And they were saying that they're like, yeah, every single excursion, like good excursion that they also saw when they were looking to do something active was on the other side of the island, about a 45-minute shuttle ride. And they said that they did snorkeling and got to swim next to sea turtles. So that had me being like, yeah, I definitely want to go back. It just will be when my son is older and I would do something like that. So not to say there isn't anything there. It's just in our situation, there wasn't anything for us, but I want to go back and I want to do something just so hopefully someone still learned from that. But yeah, we very much enjoyed just having the ship to ourselves. That was great.
That's kind of few and far between. If you do those, like the Wish cruise or those NASA stops, because like so many people don't get off. Right. So you don't really get the ship by yourself. But like on a cruise like this, it's kind of almost weird when you're walking around and there's just nobody there, but it's fun.
No, it was awesome. My wife said she got to see that like to the max. There was a last cruise we went to that went to Castaway. We didn't get to go to the island because it was the whole sailing. At the end of the sailing, there was a what's it called neurovirus outbreak. Like 20% of the ship apparently got sick, but it hit me on Castaway Day. So I was in bed and so my son and my wife just walked around the empty Fantasy while everybody was on Castaway. So they were like, she was like, it was unbelievable. It was like nothing I've ever seen in my life before.
So good on you for knowing that too. And that's a good point too. Like for people that, if you don't know, because sometimes they don't really explain on the website, like as much information as far as like what the excursion entails, always feel free to call up Disney Cruise Line and ask them about their excursions, because that's a good thing to know. Like when our kids are little, nobody wants to be in a bus with them when it's 45 minutes to an hour or something like that. That gets to be a long time for them. So you definitely know your family. So from there, you get that day at sea, and then you're off to Dominica. What you guys have planned there, Zach?
Dominica was really, really cool. So we did a beach break. When you go on DCL's website, that has one major headline or whatever, it just says relax and enjoy the volcanic sand beach of Dominica and Rousseau. That volcanic sand is the standout there. It was literally black sand, and it was just so cool and unlike anything I've ever seen before in my life. I mean, you can look at the pictures, but just one thing that was just so neat too, as far as like just the look of the water itself. So the water looks dirty from far away. I can say this because I grew up in Savannah, but like Tybee Island, filthy water. Don't like it. It's gross. Again, I grew up there, so I can say that. But when I first got there, I was like, is this going to be like Tybee? And then when you actually get in the water, like you can see everything. It's perfectly clear. It just looks that way because the sand is so dark. They talk about, I've never been to Bermuda, but they talk about how like Bermuda, the pink sand is a must see. The black sand in Dominica was absolutely a must see.
No, that does sound super cool and just very different from, I think, what most of us picture when we think about a beach. Definitely something I would love to add to my list to see one day.
We went to one in Kona, the Big Island, and I remember, like, to your point, Zach, where the water looks kind of dirty, but then you get up there and it's like so clear. The other thing that I remember is like the greens and the different colors with that black sand really just popped. It was something that I didn't expect. It was almost like being in a movie or something like that versus just a regular beach.
Well, why don't we move into our last port of call here, St. Martin? What did we get up to on this day?
Yeah, so this was the one place that we had been to before. There was one thing I wanted to do that I didn't get to do was they have a beach there where that's literally right there next to the airport. So as you're on the beach, the airplanes literally are just, very, very close to you as they go over you and land. That was something I wanted my son to see, but we just couldn't find a good excursion that just stops by there. So what we did, We did the Under Two Flags Island tour. So I mean, pretty much your typical tour around the island, go see some cool sights. So for those who don't know, St. Martin is partially Dutch land and partially French land. So it's really cool just to kind of see that gap in the culture as soon as you cross from one side to the other. So yeah, that was kind of something I really wanted my in-laws to see, is how, how that looks when you go from one side to the other. And there's just certain parts of the island that, just you can only see on one or the other. So for the most part, there was a bus tour, just stopped at a couple scenic sites. I mean, and I could be really guilty of saying, yeah, you've been to one Caribbean island and you've been to them all. They mostly look the same. But I mean, that's really not true at St. Martin, between not just the cultural part of it and how each side looks, but just the landscape in general. I mean, it's legitimately a gorgeous island with beautiful views, beautiful landscapes. And then Marigot is the French capital of St. Martin. So we got about 45 minutes in that area. And for the most part, there's nothing crazy there. It's just mostly a shopping area. But we found this little like food truck. It's called Exodus One Love. And they had smoothies. And it was actually the best smoothie I've ever had and ever will have in my life. I mean, it's just fresh fruit, making it right there in front of you. Originally planned to only have one. Last minute, we were like, yeah, we're having another one. It was hilarious because it was literally, we were about to get left. And I know that doesn't sound funny at face value, but I mean, the bus was about to leave me and my father-in-law as we were waiting for our smoothies. My mother-in-law was freaking out. It's like, we're good. It is 10 o'clock in the morning. The ship doesn't leave until like 3:30. There's a taxi right there, literally right there. I can go touch this taxi. If we get left, it is okay. We will take a taxi back to the ship, and we have hours to kill before we have to get back there. And absolute worst case scenario, it would have been worth it to get left by the bus and have to take a taxi back. Honestly, I almost wish you got left by the bus, because we would have probably gone another smoothie. Best smoothie ever. Exodus One Love was the name of it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, just don't be those people running down the pier as the ship's getting ready to leave and everything like that. But well, it sounds like an awesome cruise. Best pasta up in Palo, and then a best smoothie there in St. Martin as well. Yeah. Did you have a hard time finding excursions since your son's a little bit younger? I know beach excursions are always popular with little kids. So did you have a hard time finding excursions with DCL?
Not really. It did help that we wanted to do 2 beach excursions. Like, that wasn't there's nothing to do, I guess we'll go to the beach. Like, we wanted to do the beach excursions because of sitting go to Castaway. We want to go to the beach on a Caribbean cruise. So that helped. We were held back in Curacao. Definitely would have done something else. No, in general, I do. The biggest thing I feel like I miss right now is the option to go snorkeling. I haven't been able to go snorkeling since we've had him. We'll be back there soon. I guess that's the biggest thing. If you're sailing with a young one and you love snorkeling, just know your only option will probably be Castaway. And it's while either they're in the kids club, or if you have a significant other that can watch the kid. Yeah.
Before we take it out, I do have just a couple other questions for you here. Did you guys have any notable cast interactions during the sailing that you wanted to highlight?
Like I mentioned earlier, TC, even if it's not just a direct interaction with her, just if she's hosting a bingo, hosting a show, you got to go to it. She's just funny. You have to. I mean, like I said, it was just stand up basically, and it was really funny stand up. So yeah, if she's on a ship, find a way to interact with her. If she, figure out what she's hosting, something. I don't know what, but she's on the entertainment crew. We had a great service team as well. May was the name of our server. Super nice. I felt bad for her. She was like, yeah, I'm getting she said she was getting put on the treasure. And she was like, yeah, the biggest thing is that I'm going to go a few months without interacting with guests. So, that's going to be the hardest part there. So I just thought that was an interesting perspective. and then I don't remember our assistant server's name, but he was great. There was a point where, I was getting breakfast and I was bringing it back to the room, but immediately I was just, I saw him, said, hey, immediately, as soon as he sees I have plates in my hand, he's just ready to, to take them from me and take, he's like, where are y'all sitting? I'll take these. And it's like, no, I'm just going back to the room. But it's always, and it has happened to me before where I've run into my server or assistant server on the deck, and immediately they act like you're in the dining room at dinner. So love when that happens. But and yeah.
All right. Well, then my last question for you here is, what's next for you and your family?
So November, we're getting back on the Magic, doing a 6-night cruise. It's repositioning. So we'll start in San Juan, end in Galveston, and we're going to go hit the 2 private islands. So excited. It's been a minute since we went there at this point, and excited to see Lighthouse Point for the first time. Already warming up for the walk down the pier.
It's not as bad as it looks. Yes.
I feel like I bet it's just jarring for y'all, like just to see it and see it on social media for the first time. I was like, wow, that's just not, I don't know what I was expecting, but that wasn't it.
Yeah, when everyone takes their pictures of it, everyone's using wide lenses and everything. I think it looks way longer than it actually is. I mean, it's a walk and not everyone can do a walk like that, but it's not that bad.
I mean, my wife brought up the point. She was like, I mean, it's not like it's a short walk from the ship, like on Castaway from the ship to even the first tram stop. I mean, some people skip the first tram stop, so that's a walk in and of itself, but even that first tram stop is still a walk. She's like, so I mean, her point has just been it's more about the perception than anything else.
They're very different walks.
Okay,
sure.
Fair enough.
A little bit more vegetation on Castaway as you're cruising along there.
Yeah. Well, the difference is you can do that same distant walk at Castaway and actually be at the beach, whereas you have only gotten to the tram to get to the beach. So a little bit of a different experience, but still a very cool island and destination for sure. Very beautiful beach. I hope you guys just have an absolute blast on that sailing, and how amazing to be back on one of the best ships in the fleet, the Magic.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, Steve, anything else before we take it out of here?
No, I think that's it. Zach, was awesome catching up with you again. So happy that you guys had just an amazing trip down to the Southern Caribbean and have a wonderful time. I mean, that's a huge ship. I mean, huge trip going from San Juan to Galveston, but then also stopping at Castaway and Lighthouse Point. I mean, that's going to be just a magical cruise. So just have a wonderful time, you and your family together.
We will our check-in for activities. We are 2 days away from that. So yeah.
And all the best to your Georgia Bulldogs this fall as well. It's going to be here before we know it.
I hope so. One of the last times on the show, it was, you had said the same thing, and I was like, yeah, we're going to repeat. And we did. So
Yeah.
I'll call my shot again.
All the best to you. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the season, Zach.
Will do. Can't wait for it to be here.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show. Once again, we want to thank Zach for coming on and sharing his family's experience aboard the Disney Magic. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by joining our community by visiting patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, the Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.